Alright guys, it's that time of the week again and we are back for our championship score predictions. Let's jump into them. Guys, we are very much getting towards the business end of the season and we've got some cracking matches coming up this weekend. As always, do get your score predictions down below. Very much looking forward to diving into this weekend's action. We've got two games which are going on tonight as well. So as always, if you do go on to enjoy, make sure to leave a like, and without any further ado, let's dive into these. So starting out with tonight's first matchup, we've got Huddersfield going up against Peterborough. Peterborough obviously were involved in midweek action up against Manchester City, and to be fair to Peterborough, they certainly weren't disgraced in that game like I thought they potentially could be against Man City, but they gave a decent account of themselves, and dare I say, if they played like that throughout this whole championship season, they probably wouldn't find themselves in the current predicament that they do. But bottom of the championship, the disparity between Peterborough's away form and Huddersfield's home form is absolutely massive, and Huddersfield, you'd imagine, would be fancying their chances for this one. Peterborough, really quite disappointingly so, beaten 3-0 last time in Grant McCann's first game in charge up against Hull City. Huddersfield still on the unbeaten run, albeit I do think that Huddersfield's fixtures start to get a little bit more difficult after this game week, but for this game right here, I think that Huddersfield have to be fancying their chances. So I'm going to back the unbeaten run to extend to another game week with a comfortable 2-0 home win in this one, with FIFA going for a 1-1 draw. And then to the second game for tonight, I'm sure plenty of people will be keeping a keen eye on this one. At Bramall Lane, we have Sheffield United up against Nottingham Forest. Now, it's really interesting how these two sides have mirrored each other throughout the whole season, really. If we think back to the first opening months of the season, these two were probably the biggest underachievers in the league, you know. Forest under Sheff Utd dwelling in the bottom three, and Sheffield United under Jokanovic just couldn't seem to get any rhythm whatsoever. But since they've both made their managerial changes, we've seen a rapid rise up the league up until now, where I really don't think there's all too much to separate these two. Sheffield United obviously going well at the moment, albeit lost last time in a pretty tricky match against Millwall. Nottingham Forest got back to winning ways as they saw off Bristol City. Only 2 points separates these two in the league at the moment, and I think they're both with a great chance of making the top six come the end of the season, but separating these two I think is really tough. Cooper tends to set his side up as tough to beat on the road. So I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw on this one. I'm going to sit on the fence a little bit. FIFA's going to agree with me. Maybe a one goal either way sort of game, but I don't think there'll be all too much in that one. Next up then to Craven Cottage and into the Saturday matches for Fulham up against Blackburn. I'm sure that Blackburn will be keen to avoid a repeat of last time when Fulham put 7 goals past them, albeit there were sort of circumstances that played into that one with the red card and things like that. But Blackburn are in an interesting position at the moment because the run of form that they've been on in this calendar year had been pretty dreadful, to be honest with you, but they managed to get that win last time out, which could do them absolutely the world of good. They've had a few more positives on the injury front as well. I think that Joe Rodwell's back in training now. Ben Brereton seems to be getting closer to getting back into the side. I think Ryan Niambi's still got a couple of weeks until he's back fully fit as well, but they do have players returning, and I would say that after this Fulham game, and maybe after playing Millwall in midweek, Blackburn's fixtures do start to ease up a little bit because it has been a really tricky run for them recently, particularly with the players that they have been missing. Fulham, though, continue to grind out the results, albeit we've not seen them hit any 6s or 7s too recently. That's sort of what we've come to expect from Fulham now. They've been that good this season. But I do think that Fulham could sense there could be a few goals in it for them in this one, with Blackburn still looking a little bit depleted. I'm going to go 3-1 Fulham in this game, with FIFA going 1-0 Fulham. Next up then to Ashton Gate for Bristol City up against Birmingham. Both sides will be looking to bounce back from pretty lacklustre displays last time out. Bristol City away at Nottingham Forest couldn't really muster up much in terms of an attacking return, albeit they have been pretty entertaining recently in their home matches. So I think we would expect a little bit of a bounce from them, from Nigel Pearson, to get them going in this one. Going up against the Birmingham side who have been just as, if not more, inconsistent than Bristol City this season. Only Barnsley and Peterborough have won fewer championship matches this season than Birmingham, which I suppose paints a picture for where they are at this point in time. Not on a great run at the moment, Birmingham. Really quite shoddy performance against Huddersfield at the weekend. They're 20th in the table at the moment. Their away form isn't sparkling. So I think I'm going to edge Bristol City maybe with that extra firepower going forward. I'm going to go 2-1 Bristol City, with FIFA going 1-0 Birmingham. Next up then, and to a massive game at the bottom of the Championship, we've got Derby going up against Barnsley. Things just aren't going Derby's way at the moment in terms of a takeover and their situation with the EFL at the moment. It feels like we're just sort of treading water with Derby, with all the statements that are coming out at the moment and nothing really being resolved in terms of potential funding issues there for the rest of the season. Everyone's still pretty much in the dark, and we've not had any sort of concrete update on where Derby are financially at this point in time. Going up against Barnsley in this one, now the positive for Derby is that Tom Lawrence will be back from his suspension. All 3 games that they've been without him, they've lost all 3. In midweek, they did get into some pretty decent areas, and it's not been through a lack of trying for Derby recently, just that little bit of cutting edge that seems to be missing at the moment. Rooney wasn't happy with some of the officiating I saw from that game in midweek as well. The bad news for Derby is that Barnsley have finally been able to find a little bit of form. They've strung together some consistency with back-to-back wins now. Great win last time against Middlesbrough. That first half performance especially was absolutely spot on. Bassey playing in the number 10 position was absolutely great. So I don't think there'll be all too much in this one. I'm going to go for an unhelpful 1-1 draw in this game, which doesn't really do either side too many favours. Both teams really need to win this one. FIFA's gone 1-1, I'll go 1-1. Really could go either way, that one. Next then, to Hull up against West Brom. 2 sides who have fairly recently changed their manager, and neither side seem to get the infamous new manager bounce, really. Hull, though, did get back to winning ways at the weekend and may start to turn the corner now, albeit it was against a pretty shoddy-looking Peterborough side, but the link-up play down that left-hand side between Fleming and Lewis Potter especially looked absolutely fantastic, and they're going up against the West Brom side in this one, whose confidence just looks rock bottom at the moment. The performances have been so dismal for quite a while now, but I think that it's really hammered home by just how far off the top 6 they are now and how much of a mediocre side they now look, which is a crazy statement to think about when we sort of looked at that squad on paper coming into this season. But Steve Bruce has had nowhere near the desired impact that Baggies fans will have been hopeful of him having. They've picked up just 1 point of the 5 games that he's been in charge of. Monday night against Swansea was another really shocking performance, and for a score prediction in this one, I'm going to go 2-1 Hull. I think I fancy them to have a little bit more attacking edge, to be honest with you, with FIFA going 1-0 West Brom. Next then, and to a big game in the top 6 race. We're heading to the Riverside for Middlesbrough up against Luton. Both sides in midweek FA Cup action, and both teams involved in cracking matches, I have to say. Middlesbrough up against Spurs, and fair play to Borough. It wasn't as if it was a smash and grab sort of job. They fully brought the game to Tottenham in that one. Won it in extra time. The scenes when Josh Coburn put that into the back of the net looked like some moment for him. But yeah, Middlesbrough on an absolute roll in the FA Cup at the moment. Luton gave it a really good go themselves against Chelsea. Took the lead twice, but goals from Timo Werner and Romelu Lukaku turned that one around in the second half. As the attention heads back to the Championship, though, this is a tough one to call. In terms of the form book, it is Luton that are on the better run at the moment. They've won 4 of their last 5 now. Middlesbrough have been a little bit more spotty in terms of their form. First half against Barnsley last time in particular was well below what we've come to expect from them under Chris Wilder, but they don't tend to lose many matches at the Riverside. I think that the only team to beat them at the Riverside this season since Chris Wilder has come in, I think, has been Preston North End. So for a prediction in this one, I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. Don't think there'll be much in that one. FIFA's gone 2-0 Luton. That could be massive in the playoff race, so only 2 points separates these two sides. Next up then, to Deepdale for Preston up against Bournemouth. I am quite looking forward to seeing Ben Pearson back at Deepdale, albeit he's probably going to be on the Bournemouth bench for this one. Bournemouth on a bit of a roll at the moment. They've won their last 4, albeit I still don't think that the performances have been totally convincing. At this point of the season, that doesn't really matter. It's all about getting results, and that quality that they have in the final third has been shining through, particularly late on in 2 matches recently. When it comes to Preston, we've been drawing quite a few games recently under Ryan Lowe, but I think that we've been pretty unfortunate in the games that we have drawn. I think that our performance levels hasn't quite matched the results that we've been picking up recently. Thinking back to the games against Coventry last time, Nottingham Forest, Huddersfield as well. All 3 games we ended up drawing, and all 3 games I thought we were the better side in, to be honest with you. This one's going to be a real test though, particularly with Patrick Bauer still out injured, Liam Lindsay suspended now. You'd imagine that Bambo Diaby maybe would be thrown into that back three. Paul Huntington maybe comes out of the cold. So we are looking a little bit short in terms of those defensive numbers, and I do think we will concede 1 or 2 goals in this game. But I do think we bring that attacking threat. We always seem to have something up our sleeve for a game against Bournemouth as well. Obviously, we got a result against Bournemouth earlier on in the season. So for a score prediction, wouldn't be at all surprised to see Bournemouth winning this one. I do think there's going to be goals in it, but I'm going to back an entertaining 2-2 draw. FIFA's going to go 1-0 Bournemouth. Next then to QPR up against Cardiff. Obviously we saw Cardiff in midweek action up against Derby. Good win for them in that one, and we recently got the news of Steve Morrison signing that extension with Cardiff, and I think we have to say well deserved, to be honest with you. Given the scenario that he took over at Cardiff, where they were in the table, there was every chance that they were going to go down, and it was seen as a bit of a risk at the time, giving the keys to a fairly inexperienced manager, but proved a lot of people wrong since he's come in. He's got a win percentage of almost 40%, which is absolutely outstanding, like I said, given the circumstances. With that win in midweek, they now find themselves 16 points off the bottom 3, so they're not going to be relegated at this point either. And yeah, they can start planning towards the future, which I think is a real positive for Cardiff at the moment. In terms of QPR though, they've still got absolutely everything to play for and are going through a little bit of a stumble, which is what we've seen the majority of other teams in and around the top of the table go through fairly recently. But QPR have only won 1 of their last 6 matches now. Last time out at Ewood Park was really quite disappointing, to be honest. I thought they were quite fortunate in that one not to lose by more goals with some of the chances that Blackburn crafted out. For a score prediction in this one though, I'm going to say that QPR might bounce back, but Cardiff will make themselves tough to beat. I'm going to go 1-0 QPR, but I'm not massively confident in making that prediction. FIFA's gone 2-0 QPR. Next then to Reading up against Millwall. I'm sure that Reading will be keeping a keen eye on the Derby against Barnsley match this weekend, and they'll have sort of a nervous eye on that match as it's taking place. But they're going up against Millwall in this game, and tough game for them. I think that Millwall have given themselves an outside opportunity of maybe sneaking into the top 6. I think that they probably left it a little bit too late, with them currently being 11th in the table and 5 points off. But they're on the roll at the moment. They've won their last 4 matches, and who knows if they continue that streak over the next 3 or 4 weeks. Reading have been a bit of a tough side to call recently because they've looked decent going forward, particularly since Lucas Giles been back in the side. That link up between him and Swift has very much been back on. But as we saw in the second half against Blackpool, defensively they still look really quite paper thin. And an organised side like Millwall, you'd imagine would come out on top against a bit of a chaotic team like Reading at the moment. So I'm going to go 2-1 Millwall in this game. FIFA's going 1-0 Millwall. Next then to Stoke up against Blackpool. Stoke in action in midweek, ultimately losing against Crystal Palace in the FA Cup, and it's sort of been the story of Stoke's season recently, where they've put in a decent performance but ultimately have had nothing to show from that. In all competitions, that's now 5 games without a win for Stoke, and that really stretches into their league form, because the underlying numbers and watching Stoke on the eye, they've not disgraced themselves recently, especially going back to the performances against Bournemouth, Forest. I thought they were really quite good, but ultimately they've got hardly anything to show from those matches, and every week they seem to be slipping down the table at the moment. Blackpool's going to be another tough game. It was a good win for them last time at Bloomfield Road, putting 4 goals past Reading. Away from home, they tend to be a pretty tricky customer as well. 3 out of their last 4 away matches have all ended as 1-1 draws. And to be honest, I think that's where I see this game heading here. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw, with FIFA going 1-0 Blackpool. And then last of all, we go to Swansea up against Coventry. Swansea involved in the Monday night game against West Brom, 2-0 victors in that one, and their first away win since I think November, which is absolutely crazy. For Swansea, they have had a little bit more success recently in home matches, albeit Coventry will be a pretty tricky customer. Coventry's away form has been a little bit up and down, but they have had success on the road recently against the likes of Bristol City and Reading. I was obviously at Coventry last weekend as well to watch them against Preston, and I'm expecting this one to be a decent game of football. Both teams are at their best when they're on the ball, playing the ball through the channels and in midfield. Both teams will look to dominate the ball in those areas and things like that, and there are some good technical players that both teams have available to them. I don't think there'll be all too much in this one. I'm probably swaying towards another 1-1 draw in this one. Maybe a 1-goal swing either way. Coventry still have a feasible chance of making it into the top 6, albeit there is a lot of competition around that part of the table at the moment. I'm going to go for a 1-1 in that one, I think, with FIFA going 1-0 Coventry. But guys, there we have it. Those are the matches coming up this weekend in the Championship. Very excited to dive into them all. As always, make sure to get your score predictions in the comments down below. Do leave a like if you want to enjoy, and do stick around and subscribe for some regular Championship content. Thanks for watching though, guys, and I'll see you all in the next one.